What's up, everybody? Welcome to The Crown, where we talk Royals baseball to the few of you that are still out there following this team. I am your host, Christopher Tenpenny, and we are coming fresh off of a sweep by the Cincinnati Reds as the Royals lost 7-4, losing their ninth in a row as they fall to 18-50 on the year. Goodness, is this team bad? Historically bad. The worst start in franchise history. The Oakland A's have passed the Kansas City Royals, who are now in sole place of the worst team in baseball. And you know what I think the worst part is? Just get into it. The worst part, we don't really care. I mean, I still watch the Royals and follow them. Like I'm sure if you're listening to this, you for some reason do as well. And it's just numb to it at this point. Like, are we really surprised? Does it really matter, like, what this team is doing right now? That these losses, like, they could be 2-8 over their last 10, or they could just keep losing for the rest of the year. I really don't think it would change the public opinion that much. Honestly, the more they lose in a row, the more we're going to talk about them. If they're just mildly bad, people are especially not going to care. They have to go full blown terrible. Challenge the loss record, MLB loss record, which right now they're on pace for. There's not a lot of positive things to talk about the Royals, and I'm not going to waste a lot of time this week because, again, middle of June, OTA, mandatory minicamp for the Chiefs. I'm sure that's what way more people in Kansas City are excited about than the Royals, but we do need to talk some Royals baseball, as there is some news. We're going to talk about the stadium a little bit. We're going to talk about Vinny and him being out for the season. Sowie got hurt today. A lot of positives, as you can tell. No, it's just negative after negative, and we're going to start with today's game in the sweep from the Reds in general, who are kind of what the Royals were supposed to be. They got a lot of young guys. They have their Ellie De La Cruz, who's supposed to be, is like Bobby Witt Jr. as far as height goes and prospect status. You got your Matt McClains, you got your Steven Steers. Those are kind of like your Nick Prados, MJ Melendez, these guys that were good prospects and supposed to be talented rookies. And for the Reds, they're performing. They're coming up and performing. And I think we see teams like this all the time. The Pirates have had some guys come up and perform. The Orioles, who when they were so terrible 2 years ago and were in the same boat as the Royals, they've had their Adley Rushmans and their Austin Hayeses and their Gunnar Hendersons come up and do well. And why can't the Royals do that? Like, what is it about this team to where you see these other franchises that were in similar spots just 2 years ago? 2 years ago, the Diamondbacks, the Rangers, the Orioles, and there's one team I missed, the Pirates, all lost 100 games. Now, all four of those teams went around building teams a little differently, but all four of those teams are either in first place or fighting for a wild card spot right now, while the Royals have the worst record in baseball. The Rangers, they spent money and built it up that way. For the Diamondbacks, they did some wheeling and dealing. They had some decent prospects, but for the most, they went out and got Gurriel and Montero from the Blue Jays, and Zach Gallen ended up being a good. They made some good trades along with prospects. Well, meanwhile, the Pirates and the Orioles did it how the Royals were trying to do. Struggle for a few years, get some high draft picks, develop and obtain talent, and then boom, you're right there. You make a couple good signings, and you're right in the thick of it. And while the Pirates may be a year or two ahead of schedule, the Orioles are really what I thought. Maybe not quite to where your top 4 team in the AL, but the 2023 Orioles is really what I thought the Royals would be in 2023, or at least close to it. And they're nowhere close. They're so far away from it that it makes the last few years feel even worse. And I think that's the worst part, is like going through 2018, 2019, 2020, and then 2021 was okay. And then last year it was like it all felt, I don't want to say worth it, but like you could see the process. You could see what they were going for. There were people to be excited about. Last year, Bobby's rookie season wasn't amazing. He still finished third in the AL Rookie of the Year voting and had a really productive season. You saw the flash of power from MJ. Vinny came up and impressed. Singer was doing his thing. And now we're looking at this team right now, and just 6 months later, there's nothing to get excited about. Bobby's really the only thing, and he's still a huge talking point about someone who's not. We wanted him to be a star, like we see some of these other guys, like Ronald Acuna did when he came to the league, or even more comparable, Adley Rutschman did. The guy who was taken ahead of him in that draft, and it's like Bobby's not quite that level, and we bash him for it, but we need to be still really impressed with what he's doing because he's the only one on this team other than Salvi really performing at what the place that we need to. I mean, he's in this series. He walked 3 times in the game. He hit a homer and had a couple hits last night, and he had 3 hits again tonight. So I do want to give Bobby some credit. Him and Salvi are the 2 position players on a night in, night out basis that I really feel comfortable with. But outside of this team, like all the hope is just kind of disappeared. I mean, I like what I've seen from Massey. If you take out the April Prado, outside of just taking some stride, I know that's his approach. I know that's what he built his game off of, is being patient and swinging at his pitch. But even with his numbers looking pretty good, it's still frustrating at bats, and I'm just curious how long he's going to be able to sustain not swinging at strikes. But him and Massey get a little boost right now, and that's just because what's left is not been fun. I mean, Michael Garcia can pick it. His bat's a little inconsistent, which I guess we knew. Edward Olivares is maybe the most frustrating player on the team, and that's saying something when you have Jordan Lyles and Brady underperforming and some of these other guys. But Edward Olivares, I mean, if you watch that game, I can't remember, was it the night Salvi hit the game tying home run, which I think was game 1, and they went into extra innings, and Eaton and Bobby was in score the winning run in second base with 1 out, and on a 3-0 count, Edward Olivares takes a pitch clock violation on a 3-0 count, and then treats the next pitch like he's still in a 3-0, like it's an automatic take. To be fair, that rookie closer for the Reds at the time was very wild, but it's not a 3-0 count anymore. Why are we automatically taking strikes? So now all of a sudden your 3-0 count went to 3-2 because of a violation, and you determined that you weren't swinging the bat on 3-1. You popped up, and then there's 2 outs. You're not even having a real chance to get that tying run home, and that was the ball game. And we've seen him out there in defense, and that's abysmal. That I don't have the numbers in front of me, but he's one of the worst defensive outfielders in all of baseball. I do know that, and yet he has to keep playing because he's one of the few guys that has a bat that at least shows up occasionally to give this team a chance with how bad their starters have been. I mean, their starters have been absolutely abysmal. I'm not saying anything you guys don't know. You guys watch the games, you see what I'm seeing. It's just, we're getting to a boiling point here. 9 straight losses, 50 losses already. They're on track to have, they're going to have more they're going to have 60 plus losses by the All-Star break. And there's going to be teams that don't even lose 60 this year. Teams like the Rays and the Rangers and, the Dodgers potentially and Braves, those 4 teams potentially not even lose 60 games this year, and the Royals are going to hit that by the All-Star break easy. Might be at 65 at the pace that they're going right now. But anyway, going back to Olivares, it's like this guy was supposed to be a bat that we used to complain about how much they didn't give him a chance and sent him down to AAA and back up and whatever the case may be. And you know what? For a front office, I don't want to give a lot of credit to right now. That they may have seen something. We had to go on. What was it called? It's not like he had to go on he had to miss a day, and they never gave a real reason. But there's speculation that it was because he missed the flight. They called up Nate Eaton because Olivares did not travel initially to Baltimore. He was not there the first day, and a reason was not given. And I really believe that based that it was because he didn't make the flight. That's just kind of the headache that he's been everywhere. Even when he is hitting, he still has games like game 1 of the Red Series, and it's just you go up and down this lineup, and there's no one to get real excited about in the minors. I mean, Samad Taylor and Nick Lawson, who I think just went on the IL, like There might be some nice players. They're not going to be game changing. They're not going to be much better, if any better, than the guys we've got up now. I mean, maybe take Matt Duffy away for Samad Taylor or Lofton, but other than that, like they're in AAA for a reason. When you're in AAA and the team's 18-50, you're there for a reason, and it's not necessarily to keep your 6 year clock from starting. It's because you may not be the best option on this team, which is concerning. And the pitching is even more bare. I mean, this is one of the worst farm systems with all the baseball. You can't pair that with a bad team. And I know I'm rambling right now again, and it's just because we're at this boiling point where I still for some reason turn them on every night when I can and watch them lose. And like tonight, it was one inning again, like it was 2 nights ago. Jordan Lyles had a 5-run inning, pitched well the rest of the time. That was that. Daniel Lynch went 7 innings, gave up 5 runs in the fourth, I believe. Gave up two over the other six, but that was that. And Daniel Lynch didn't even really pitch that well. I know he went 7, and like you can right, even the 6 innings that he pitched okay, and like wasn't like his stuff was sharp. It wasn't like that was a guy that was going to be able, to really wow us with what he had today. So you can't even get excited about him. You can't get excited about Singer now. Lyles is maybe the worst starter in all of baseball. Him and Lance Lynn are competing for that right now in Chicago. Greinke's doing his thing, but 39-year-old pitcher. What do you expect? And then they're still doing this opener thing with Carlos Hernandez and Mike Mayers, and Mayers had a couple nice starts. Starts, and he's kind of shown why he was non-roster invitee and originally to start the season, why no one else wanted him. Like, he's not consistent enough. Carlos Hernandez has his moments, and then really the only other place to talk about is the bullpen, which is some of those guys have had nice. Scott Barlow's still a little up and down, which breaks my heart a little bit. He's my favorite guy, and he hasn't been bad, but he did allow that run in the ninth inning that made Salvy's home run later a game tying instead of a game winning. And Scott's had a couple, hasn't been quite as sharp this year, but at least Chapman's looks like he's gonna be worth the risk they took. They took the PR hit they took on it, brought in this guy that is gonna not a very popular guy because of his off the field stuff, and for good reason. And they brought him in, and it looks like it's going to work in the trade department. They're going to get something for Chapman. I mean, and that's really what the move was for. So thank goodness they made one decision right. Taylor Clark's probably going to bring in something nice. Scott Barlow probably needs to be paired with one of those guys along with Amir Garrett whenever he comes back, which will be right around the deadline. So he may be stuck on the team just because of the injury. But the bullpen's really been the only bright spot, and it's really just those four guys. The rest of this team back there is, you got your what's the name of the reliever that he pitched at the end of the game tonight? Whitgren, and then Quas. Those guys are just anteaters. They're nothing, and this team is just in such a spot that I don't know why we would expect anything different. But this losing streak and the record, what it is, there's no real reason to get excited. There's no real reason to see this team turn around. And yet, as I say all that, this team wants a new stadium. And an article from the Star came out today, and we are going to get into that right after this brief message.
What up, KC? On the heels of yet another Kansas City Super Bowl victory, we have an awesome opportunity for you to broadcast your business to the local Kansas City market. We've created something called Kansas City Sports Company, which is a sports media hub for multiple live shows, all of which cover all the local Kansas City teams. Now, we have 30-second ad spots, 60-second ad spots, we have event sponsorships, studio sponsorships, show sponsorships, and much, much more. This is a great opportunity for you to start early with us and broadcast your business to a very dedicated, very enthusiastic Kansas City audience. Contact me or hit the Contact Us link on our website to learn more about this opportunity.
Welcome back to The Crown, and let's get into this article that came out today in the Kansas City Star. Sam McDowell and Kevin Hardy came out with a piece that says, "Get us out of purgatory." inside the Royals' farming push for a downtown stadium. And if you haven't read it yet, yeah, I know some of you probably have mixed feelings about the Star, but please go check it out. Sam McDowell does a really good job in bringing in Kevin Hardy here. It's a really good piece. Really goes into the details on what's going on with these negotiations. But essentially, to give a rough summary, is the Royals are really bad at communication. The Royals are really bad at just about everything that they've been doing, whether on or off the field, since John Sherman's been into power. That's basically what I took out of it. Now, there's a lot of other things, but like the Jackson County wants the Royals to stay, and I think that makes sense. They're all on board, like the potential downtown ballpark. While there are a lot of mixed feelings across the fan bases, I think it would be good for the city, and I think um, the mayor sees that, and keeping it in Jackson County is a good idea. It's what should be done. But while that the mayor and the government is supporting the Royals staying here, the Royals are also reaching out up north into Clay County and seeing what they can do up in North KC. And after being in Jackson County for 50 years and all the support that they've gotten, to kind of go behind their back and looking somewhere else to take their ballpark is not being looked too kindly right now. And you can't, the one group that does want to work with you for sure, which is the mayor and the government in Jackson County, you can't piss them off. Like, you already have the fan base against you. You have a lot of things mowing against you. You can't piss off the one people that are trying to give you money for this new ballpark. Yet somehow, some way, this ownership group has still found a way to do that, dipping their toe in other locations in the Kansas City area that really don't make sense. I mean, as a North KC guy myself, I got married in Liberty. My mother graduated from Kearney High School. Like, as a North KC guy myself, it makes no sense. It's a terrible, terrible place to go. Um, the act where they want to build a ballpark is over on the other side of the bridge by the river, and it's like not a lot of access for people to get in and out. It's away from some of the population. Like, it just doesn't make sense to go up there. Yet the Royals are risking a lot on the things that they do have by even talking to them, and it just blows my mind how there can be so much dysfunction and so much miscommunication from on all facets of what an organization's doing. Like, the ball club stinks. The ball club has no hope in sight right now. And the one thing that they're really trying to do and sell us on this new stadium, sell the fans and the communities on new stadium, and they're botching that too. They're not doing anything. There's surveys going out which are showing over 50% of people taking these surveys are against the stadium, and that 100% seems to be the sentiment I see too online. Listening to radio, reading articles, reading forums. Like, this team can't be this bad and us have this little insight on really why they want a new stadium, and fans support it. It just sounds like billionaires crying that they this is a want, this is not a need. And there's that clip. I'm sure if you listen to it at all, that John Sherman's saying, Kauffman's a beautiful stadium on the outside, but it's really the interior stuff and that's all that he said. It's the interior stuff that you guys don't see, and it's like that's all you're giving the fans to go off of, is that interior of the stadium may not be quite up to par, so we need to pay $2 billion or whatever it is to build you a new stadium when you just got here. Bro, I don't know you. And what I do know about you has been a lot of losing. And I get it. You talk a good game and you say about how you want to build a winner. And I've heard from a lot of people talk about how John Sherman and this ownership group really does care that they will pay for a winner. Why have I seen anything to support that? Like, really, he came from Cleveland. They don't spend a lot of money. Hired a manager from the Rays who previously worked in Cleveland. Ray don't spend a lot of money. JJ Piccolo was was under Dayton Moore, and while it wasn't all Dayton Moore's fault why he didn't get to spend money, his mo was finding the diamonds in the roughs, the Chris Youngs, the Kendrys Moraleses, the Ryan Madsons, those guys, and bringing them in and drafting well. So nobody in this organization comes from a background of an organization spending money. So why am I, as a fan, supposed to believe if we give them a new ballpark and build it up that they're going to then turn that money around and pay for a new ball club? I don't. I have no reason to believe that. And they had a lot of opportunities this year. Nathan Evaldi and Ben Heaney, who are doing really well, especially Evaldi for the Rangers, and a big reason of why the Rangers are in first place in the AL West. They were potential suitors for the Royals. Now they were a little bit more expensive, but Heaney was like, I think he got 2 for 24 or three, something along those lines, where he wasn't that much more expensive than Jordan Miles, and Evaldi wasn't that much more expensive than Heaney. And I'm not saying that like they needed to bring in both these guys or that those are the two cut guys. Those are just examples on. They brought in Jordan Miles and paying him 18 million over the next 2 years. Why not spend a little bit more money in other areas on pitchers who are actually good? You're paying Jordan Lyles. You can't spend money on franchises. You can pay a guy 9 million a year to go out there and not win a game and have an ERA of 7. So that's where my like even if they do pay for a winner, are they going to be paying the right guys? Like the sample size is small. I get that, but like there has been nothing shown to us as fans since 2020 to get excited about this team, to get on board with a new stadium, to show that this team has their ducks in a row and that they know what they're doing with this new stadium and that it is the right decision. Like I'm for it. Like after everything I just said, I am still for it just because I think a downtown ballpark would be really good for this team. I'm also a little bit excited about the possibilities that the Chiefs could do without the Royals there, which is you got to take into account as the Chiefs are king here. So I am excited about that part as well. But I get where anyone who was against it is coming from. I can see it right there. Like if you're against it, there's no reason anyone's getting you excited about a downtown ball club or ballpark. Excuse me. It's just it's making the Oakland A's situation out there look kind of halfway decent. I know that the Royals aren't getting the national publicity that the A's are, but you start looking around at it and the Royals might be worse because they don't seem to know. At least A's and their fans in that organization like knows what's going on. Like knows that they have ignored the fans for 20 years on the new ballpark because they want to leave, and this was the perfect year for them to tank for that. Like at least that seems to be a self-aware thing. It may not be morally good. It may not be the best thing, and it's heartbreaking for those fans. But at least it's like they know what's going on. The Royals in their front office just seems to be lost in everything. Stadium, team, and it's just so frustrating. And to make matters worse, now one of your young stars, one of the guys that you're excited about this year, Vinny Pasquantino, was announced earlier today, has a torn labrum and is going to miss the rest of the season. He's going to have surgery. And while Vinny was going through it for the last month or so, he wasn't quite tearing the ball off the cover like he was at the start of the season. He's still shown a lot over the year to be a guy that you can get excited about. On a team with so little to get excited about, Vinny Pasquantino in less than a year in the majors already gave fans a reason to, you know, Mike Sweeney ish, to where sure the other 25 ball players around Vinny are going to be terrible. At least we know when Vinny comes up to the plate that there's things can happen, kind of like what Salvi is now, but for the future. And to have him out for the season, while it is sad and like ultimately it's not a good thing because he is still a young player. You want to see what you have there. You are missing 3 months to 4 months of his second year of control, and not the ideal. But there are some silver linings here. What's nice is it will give Nick Prado an opportunity to play first every day. And again, as much as Nick Prado's at bats can be frustrating to me at times, just because of his style, which I know is a popular style in baseball, at least he'll be able to be in the same spot every day and continue to see, just to show that hey, him in the leadoff spot, him doing what he's been doing is sustainable, and he's going to be a ball player on this team. Also opens up a spot in the outfield, which they already got rid of Jackie Bradley Jr. They designated him for assignment and brought up Darian Blanco, but I think Blanco's just holding it down for when Kyle Isbell comes back. Because Kyle Isbell, say what you will on his bat, that dude is a major league center fielder. He's still on the WAR list for Royals right now, I think, with 1.2, with a below average offensive production. I think his OPS was plus is like 77, and he is still an above player because of how good defensively he is. He's a guy that I get a little excited. Is such a hard word with this team because we talked about like he's still a bad offensive player, but he's a guy I miss out there. And maybe it's because of the rest of the talent on the team. I'm excited for Kyle Isbell to come back. I actually think he's someone that they could package with Chapman or a reliever, and because I think teams really like having those defensive replacements. Kyle's a decent runner. He can be out there late in games. He's not terrible against right-handed pitching. He shows a little gap to gap power at times. And this team is so far away that a young guy that has control, that already has a really good tool in his fielding, couldn't you see him being traded to a team like the Dodgers or the Phillies? They have Brandon Marsh, but there's teams out there that may need center fielders and like that may be able to unlock something and may like that appeal. That's a name that I haven't heard talked a lot about in trade discussions. That this is baseball. Like this is in major leagues. If you're a star at one tool, you have value. And Kyle Isbell's defense is that. Didn't realize I was going to be talking about him this much as we're actually starting with Vinny Pasquantino news. But again, he's one of the few guys that has given you a reason to at least that does something well, and that's few and far between on today's team. Last bit of bad news is that Salvi did exit tonight's game on June 14th. It sounds like it's just he got hit by a pitch on the hand. Sounds like it's just a bruise. Doesn't sound super serious currently. But the Royals' last three tweets, since they tweeted out their lineup, they have tweeted out the Vinny Pasquantino news, the Salvador Perez news, and that the Royals lost 7-4 to the Reds. No highlights, no nothing. All you gotten today after the lineup that was tweeted out at like 2 p.m. today is negative news after negative news after negative news. And compare that with an article that's calling it purgatory on their new stadium. It has been a very, very rough day for the Royals during a week and a half that has been very rough in general. And it's just, this is more of just a rant podcast just tonight, just get everything off my chest, let all these thoughts and just feelings brewing over the last 9 to 10 days out. Because I love baseball and I love my hometown team. And, as a kid, 2006 was I was 11 in 2006. 2006 was the first year that I really finally fell in love with the game. It took me a little bit than some of you that maybe fell in love with it at 5, 6, 7 years old. And I loved watching those 06, 07, those bad teams at the end of the 2000s. And maybe it's the kid thing, and maybe it's paired with the having reached the mountaintop, having seen 2013, 14, 15, and then 16 to 17 still being like enjoyable seasons. Maybe that's part of it, is that I didn't have that as a kid. But man, I just cannot remember ever a time where it's this hard to turn the Royals on. And I'm still the sucker that pays. I'm down in OKC. I paid $20 a month to watch this team lose, and I'm getting close to canceling it. And there's no other passion I love more than watching baseball at the end of my day. That's where we're at this team, and I just really, to the 5 of you listening to this, I really appreciate it. And please, if you need to vent and get your frustration out and just ramble, please leave a comment on the YouTube page or hit me up on Twitter at 10penny88 or whatever you got to do, because I'm right there with you. It's we still got a long ways to go this season, and it just feels like it might be time to pick a new team. I'm a big Bryce Harper guy. I might have to be a Phillies fan, who also have a losing record, by the way. I may pick a new team. Maybe jump on the Rangers or Orioles bandwagons. They're kind of fun. Keep the Royals in the background. Whatever you need to do to get our baseball fixes. But no, unfortunately, as much as I say that, I can't do it. I'm still gonna turn on these Royals. I'm still gonna watch them give up these 5-run innings and strike out and make dumb decisions in big moments as they tumble down to they're gonna be one of the worst 3 teams in the league by the end of the year. There's no doubt in my mind at this rate. So, well, anyway, appreciate you listening tonight. Again, as always, you can follow me on Twitter at 10penny88. Please check out KC Sports Company, doing a lot of good things, including a lot of Chiefs content. There's a winner that's fun to talk about. So check out that if you're wanting to be picked up a little bit. Whether it's talking about what Justin Ross is going to do or the Chris Jones missing. I'm sure that we got plenty of podcasts coming out this week to discuss all of those more enjoyable topics than these Royals. So, but all right, that's going to do it for me this week. I'll talk to you next time.